Yeah, good evening. I'm your host, Don Armando, and this is a very special edition of Open Topics with Don Armando. I'm just waiting for my guests to show up, and then on top of it, we'll actually get right into the interview. Hey, Don Jose, how you doing? How's everything so far? I know, I see that with with all that's going on, Don Jose, I could actually say that you're actually standing your ground, and I'm actually proud of you, OG. Because it's not that easy. You know, certain people they want to actually make negativity a thing, but I could actually say, Don Jose, you actually stood your ground, and I actually commend you for that. Yeah, I know. It seems that everybody has a issue with that. Uh, I don't even know if I should call that hater a person anymore. So it is what it is. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes,
That's nice, man. Dude, I apologize for the how many minutes has it been? Okay, like the 17-minute delay. I had a hard time connecting on my phone, so I just relocated to my laptop.
got you.
Alrighty, so you can hear me very well.
Yes.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start the interview with like tell me the origins of Georgia of Cremado, where you was born at. Like how was your young life like in California?
Just like a lot of other kids out there in the Bay Area, which is where I am from, like specifically Berkeley, California, I had a great upbringing despite some of the rocky moments that I've had in my lifetime, but who hasn't?
All right. I guess we all had rocky moments.
Yes, and it's just a matter of whether you are willing to broadcast your rocky moments and broadcast your losses over your wins, which is generally speaking like what people would prefer to broadcast their wins, not their losses, and definitely not the rockiness that they've had during those times.
I understand. So
Mhm.
so for my viewers and everything like that, like what was the norm when it was in Berkeley, California or the Bay Area? What did people do? Did they actually go to San Francisco from Berkeley or is like or in the Bay Area? Like I know that there's different cities and towns. So
That's
what
right.
was the what was the environment like for you growing up at that time?
It was a very steady environment where a lot of people live harmoniously, even though there were times where, again, it was also rocky. But just due to a lot of like the harmony and just like the good atmosphere that I was being offered, like as a kid during that time, I couldn't really complain a whole lot. And like
That's
when,
nice.
yeah, there was like so many things to do. Like we had like Tilden Park, Wildcat Canyon in the Berkeley area. And then, yeah, well, for a lot of the grown-ups, if they really wanted to go out and do their thing, they would either go to downtown Oakland or San Jose or San Francisco.
Right.
Hmm.
So, growing up, did you ever actually go to Chinatown and see Chinese New Year for yourself? Was that like a current thing, or you might have done that later on in life?
I didn't really do a whole lot of that, but there were a number of people that went to the Chinatown in downtown Oakland and even in downtown San Francisco for that kind of
All
stuff.
right, all right.
But it was never really something that you would have seen me doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm. It's like for I just started doing it because I went to the Chinese New Year's festivities in Philadelphia, and I kind of saw it when I was living in New York because I've missed that aspect every year because either I was busy or something like that.
Hmm.
So, but I always heard that the Chinese New Year in San Francisco is like out of this world. So I was like, hmm. So I had to ask.
Hmm. I never really cared a whole lot for it because it just was never really interested in that.
I hear you.
But I was still happy that other people were able to enjoy it.
Hmm. So, so how was your teenage years like?
Half and half. Still, a lot of the rockiness was really starting to come in even more in full effect during my teenage years, specifically going to Berkeley High. But
All right.
the other half of it was honestly brilliant.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. I went to a really great
So,
high school, at least during the time, too. So, what's up?
all right. So there's like from our chats and everything like that, and I hope I'm not being intrusive.
You're not.
So,
I'm an
all
open
right,
book.
gotcha. So what was like the environment in that high school? Was it like pure rock and roll? Was it rap? Was it people who are affluent? People who wasn't?
It was a combination of all of those aforementioned things. You did
All right,
actually have a number of students who actually lived up there in the Berkeley Hills. And if you lived up there and you had a nice house, then there was a possibility that you were a high schooler who came from an affluent background.
all
Let
right,
alone it was still during a time when the Bay Area was still expensive. And living in the Berkeley Hills, that's prime property. So we already get the idea.
gotcha.
And then, yes, we even actually had some students, though, who even came from less fortunate backgrounds, too. That did
All
not really
right.
mean they were bad. And then,
Mhm.
yes, we did actually have like a rock and roll crowd, too. There was even a gothic scene, too. And then, yeah, we also did have the hip hop and rap crew as well. You you could find just about anything at Berkeley High back in the 2000s.
All right. Because back in my day when I was going to high school,
Hmm.
what everybody would call emo or whatever, what we just straight up called the guys who we now consider emo, like the beginning of it, like back in the late '90s and early 2000s.
I
We
remember.
actually called we actually called them the trench coat mafia. I
Interesting.
hope that's yeah, because it was like, all right, the media at that time when it was the unaliving of students or whatsoever, and the people who actually committed that to young men that actually called themselves the trench coat mafia. So the emo scene, whenever we saw the emos in my neighborhood and they listened to rock, and they were not like us. You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, in the hood. So some of them were actually respectful and everything. So we just actually called them the trench coat mafia. And
Hmm.
they wore the spikes or whatsoever. This was like the beginning of what we actually consider emo right now in the Bronx or New York for that matter. So after a while, I start hearing the word goth. So the only thing in my mind, I was like, okay, goth is. I thought goth was just a font. You know what I'm saying? Or
Hmm.
or warriors from back in the day that they called the Visigoths, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
But then when I start seeing the definition of goth, and you seeing women and men wearing makeup like during the kiss band, etc. I was like, okay, I don't quite understand this subculture. I'm like, okay, and now I guess everybody's saying that they're emo. I was like, okay, I don't quite understand it, but I guess they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I will say that I have a completely different viewpoint and perspective on that. I think just probably where you were growing up, Don, it
Hmm.
was just very vastly different than where I was growing
Yeah.
up. Plus, I also take note that you are technically speaking more of a older millennial. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing,
Yes.
but because you were born in '83, right?
Yes. I
I was born
was.
in and I was born in '92, which makes me a younger millennial. So we're actually pretty different. And then also you were growing up in the Bronx, right?
No, I actually grew up partly in down south, and then I went to the Bronx. I came back to the Bronx when I was 12 because I was
Got
originally born in New York City, but then I
got
actually had my schooling in Gulfport, Mississippi, so I was stood there for 7 years.
got
So,
it.
oh,
Oh,
so yeah, so therefore that's like I was kind of familiar with people who call themselves Creoles and everything like that, because
uh-huh.
my aunt husband, he would actually she the person that she was married to, because I never got to meet him because he passed before I got there, but he would in today's term he would actually be considered a Creole or MGM, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was actually in the Bayou area, and he was actually born in the Bayou area of what we call Gulfport and etc. So it was like wow.
Yeah.
So my aunt, she always told me about people who actually were Creole. At first, I didn't understand it, but then when I actually did my own research, I was like, oh, so this is what my aunt was talking about. So I had like more familiarity then, but I haven't been around the down south area. I mean, as far as the Bayou areas, I haven't been there since like 1998, to tell you the truth.
Okay, so yeah, it's been some time. But even
Yes,
in basically, yeah, or the you say Gulfport, Mississippi, or even the Mississippi deltas too. Still,
yes,
still a very vastly different place from where I was growing up, which then means, which takes us back to the emo topic. So I went to Berkeley High from 2006 to 2010. So I was
all right,
basically a high schooler in the mid to late 2000s, in
all
the
right,
beginning of the 20 teens. So the emo scene, at least with what I was seeing at the time, had nothing to do with any kind of trench coat mafia. You know,
all right.
Even Eric Harris, who was the actual mass shooter of Columbine, if we all remember that, but we're not going to get into that.
Yes,
He considered
yes,
himself, by the way, a member of the trench coat mafia. That
yes.
was that's when I was really starting to hear about that, but I still didn't understand that. But during my times at Berkeley High, I was not making some kind of connection between the two, because the emo scene that I remember from my time at Berkeley
All
High
right.
were the scene kids. We all remember the scene kids, or those who were always jamming to screamo music, which is actually a drama. So people that scream
Yeah,
music. So there's that, the screamo music, and then you have the scene kids. Those are the types who I was growing up with at Berkeley High. And I
all
actually
right.
knew a girl who called herself the scene kid. That had nothing to
Mm.
do with any trench coat mafia. So that's why I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, we must be from very vastly different times and grew up in very vastly different places, because I do not see
exactly.
any connection between the two at all.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, the reason why I was saying the connection, because there was like in New York, of course, right? That's when I actually started seeing people wearing trench coats. But
Hmm.
yet, the way that they were wearing trench coats, it was like, you know, it was like after a while. I'm saying in New York, it was like they combined like like all the years and everything. I started seeing people wearing the face paint. The music was actually being different and such.
Hmm.
So that's why I was saying, like, I see them that they're actually going the emo route, but these are the guys. But I'm saying, like, in the beginning when I was growing up, like
Yeah.
when I was 16 and 8 and etc., I started seeing these guys as the trench coat mafia in the beginning. I don't know how it was in the West Coast, but I'm just saying from like an East Coast perspective when I was living in the Bronx. And then all the people that I know that they started listening to rock more, they started putting face paint or painting their nails black or whatsoever. Then it's then that I start seeing that some of them that like around the shift between '04 '05, you had certain people that actually called themselves vampires. And
Hmm.
then when I came back to New York, because I was living in Jersey at the time, when I came back to live in New York like around 2010, all the guys that I seen that they were saying that they were trench coat mafia, they're actually saying that they're emo now.
Hmm.
So it was like a progression. So that's why I mean that's to what I've seen. It might have been different for people in different parts of the United States, but I'm just saying from an East Coast perspective.
Yeah. And growing up, I did not live anywhere else other than the Bay Area. So that was basically all that I knew.
Yeah,
So whatever the Gulfport, Mississippi, or the Bronx, New York perspective is, that's just not something that I can relate to when it comes to the perspective of the emos and the connection that you saw with the trench coat mafia. Because in the Bay Area perspective, there really was no connection with them though, other than just those who consider themselves to be a part of the scene kids. You know,
right.
that's pretty much it when it comes to that matter.
All right. So growing up as a as a mixed kid,
Hmm.
what were the adversities that you have faced or like early on or maybe later in life?
Oh, yeah, that's a common question that I've get from time to time. Oh, so much like I said, although I actually overall had a splendid childhood, that doesn't mean that there was no rockiness, as I was highlighting earlier. So there was actually a time where I did experience some racial resentment from some black kids. And then, even just a few years after that, when my mom sent me away to a sleepaway camp up there in Washington, and by the way, it was all white. There were even some of the kids there who were even taking notice to me looking a little different than them, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, so like there was like this one white kid who said who got mad at me and then went off and told like one of the other campers, "Man, that black fool doesn't have any sense." I remember that. And then when it came
Uh,
to the black kids at a summer camp that I went to, they were like, "No, he's too white to be a part of us."
wow.
Yeah. And then this one girl like told me, what was she saying? She said to me, "Stupid white guy" or "stupid white boy." I do remember that comment. So during the time, you for sure had some teenagers and some kids at the time who for sure were harboring some racist sentiments in their hearts somewhere.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, when you're thinking about like Washington State and California or the Bay Area, and people would wonder, well, aren't those like liberal strongholds or liberal bastions or just people, or better yet, where people who are left leaning basically have the power. I'm like, yes, but that does not really insulate an area from attitudes or views that you may have in your heart that you ought to not have. Don't be naive.
All right. So one thing that I've asked, and I know that we have certain how should I say entities that did try to pick on your past and everything like that.
Hmm.
So how are you introduced to? Okay, I'm just gonna paraphrase it, but how are you introduced to, I guess, the ideology of white supremacy, or how should I say, or what people would actually deem as racist down this day and age?
Meeting new people and building new connections, building a new
All right.
circle, and inviting
Oh,
other people into your tribe. And that in itself
right.
is going to bring along a handful of elements. And then
Mm.
plus also, it was also during a time where, oh yeah, where me and a handful of people were partaking in a lot of attention seeking behavior. So whatever was going to get you like the most amount of like attention, you had to say some extreme stuff. You had to really fill your heart with some bitterness and fill your heart with some radical views, you know? And then plus, in my case, since I already had some pre-existing issues going on anyway that pertain to like my identity and just honestly some anti-black sentiments that I had during that time,
All
well,
right.
that in itself was already sealing the deal.
I hear you.
So yeah, so like, and then like, so just look at it like this. So you have an attention-seeking personality. You already are dealing with some self-hatred, and then up here comes some people who express some radical views as you and are interested in a shared ideology. So bam, you guys end up clicking like long lost family members.
Yeah, I've actually heard this a lot. Not only with or what you're describing, but I'm saying like other people that they might have a a goal or ideology that they feel is not being met. So
Mm-hmm.
that's from what I've heard, that people said that they actually find a common bond. So when you found that common bond, was it like in a party? Was it in a Starbucks? Was it like in a rave? Or was it
Online.
like
It was
online?
online,
Oh, okay.
both
All right.
online and even at rallies in real life. Because I traveled
Mm.
all the way up and down from San Diego, California, even all the way up to Portland, Oregon. Along the way are a
Wow.
bunch of connections. Yeah, so yeah,
Mm.
even making my way into DC as well.
Wow. I mean,
Hmm.
I passed DC by the train, but I never actually visit there. I hope I visit there one of these days before the summer is out. So, but the thing is this.
Oh yeah,
So was it
I met a few neo Nazis in DC at the time, but that was in
all right?
2017. Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Met
And
three
I
of them.
know. Wow. So other than that, when you actually made all these new connections or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
did you get a lot of pushback from your family? Was it like a sense of discord, or how was their family life at that time?
So a couple family members for sure cut ties with me, but the vast majority of them did not.
All right.
Yes, so they were more of the types who were just writing me off as just lost, but were
All
for
right.
sure praying that I would just be delivered from whatever it is I was dealing with. So yeah, me and my mom, we still maintain a decent relationship. We still actually kept in touch. but she was just more of the type who just did not really want anything to do with what I was doing. And that was the same case with my auntie and just even my siblings too. It's just more so as that we were all just doing our own thing, though, whether we fundamentally disagreed with whatever it is we were, advocating for. We
Hmm.
still like respected each other's boundaries and just pretty much kept it moving. So I guess for the haters who are saying, does your family even acknowledge you? That they do? Yes, they do. But they for sure love this version right now, because you got to look at it like this, though. Lord has a comeback for whatever your setbacks were. And then plus,
Yes.
if myself have actually been there for you as a family member who was clearly seeing you struggle through some stuff, whether that was some addiction issue and some other things, if people want to go there, then they should likewise extend the same level of grace and mercy as I have extended to them.
All right. So
It's about
why?
being
So
reciprocal.
what? Hmm.
Go
So
on.
why do you think that you have certain entities that they want to try to use your past against you? Was it like was it certain things that they were offended by, or you have certain people who are just being problematic just to be problematic?
Kind of a combination of everything, though. And then plus, you got to really look at it like this, though. But race is already a super hot topic in this country, and race in itself is going to be a word that's just already going to ruffle the feathers.
All right.
Hmm.
So,
Then
because
people who just want to throw dirt at your name over whatever it is that you did publicly, or that's basically what you did when you sinned publicly, it's just their way of feeling as though they have to compete against you.
exactly. I mean, okay. So what? So those connections and everything like that you made, was it like a hierarchical structure, or was it like a barbecue where everybody talked about what they didn't like about whatsoever? So how's those structures was about? Was it like people that actually felt like you, not only the white supremacists, but I'm saying anybody else that believed in that ideology at that time you've seen?
For sure, though, but let's just say this. A lot of what was also going down there is a lot of it is also the same stuff that you even see on here in the YouTube streets, where it's decentralized and everybody wants to be a leader. It's a lot of ego going around, and people are just, competing. But
All
you
right.
sure actually had people who tried to be leaders. You actually had people who, tried to establish hierarchy, because I actually knew a couple guys who did. I'll tell you their names in the backstage.
All right.
So they tried to do it, but long story short, it was just mainly a bunch of people just congregating together just to show how pissed off at the world they are at,
Okay.
just to show how
So
misanthropic and just like I said, how pissed off they are at the world. I should say.
all right. So
What's
one th-
up?
one thing's for certain, and I know, and I've read like a lot of documentaries. Have you seen people who actually thought that the book from Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf, that it changed their lives? That they thought that book changed their lives for the better, or they actually were thinking about were thinking that everything what Adolf Hitler said was right? How's that environment? I mean, if you met individuals like that.
Becomes one large cult fest, if you ask me.
All right.
One large cult fest where everybody is now forming their own cult based upon National Socialist ideals that were inspired by the Third Reich and Hitler himself. and
Okay.
the Mein Kampf book was just a driving force behind all of that. And then even
Yeah.
other artists too, like Leon de Grail. Ever heard of him too? And also more than, I mean, at the time, like even Leon de Grail's books were popular too.
Okay.
Leon de Grail, though, he was actually, well, he was a Belgian soldier, and then he became a colonel too, and even Hitler considered him to be like a son to him.
All right. I did not know that aspect of history,
Yep,
but I will.
the book is called Hitler Democrat by Leon de Grail, and actually at the time, I used to idolize Leon de Grail too. So there you go. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
just a lot of us just forming our own clique based upon the ideals of either that or Reinhard Heydrich or Hermann Göring or
Yeah.
Joseph Goebbels.
Yes. I've always heard those names.
Goebbels. Yep.
So, what was the turning point that from that ideology, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe from what you've been through and everything like that, what was your turning point to say like, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Peace.
All right.
You want to have peace in your
So
life, right? Especially
yes,
inner peace, or better yet, as they call it, equanimity in your life, right? That's what we all
yes,
strive for on this platform, right?
yes,
Well, the first step to even achieving that kind of peace or equanimity is self acceptance, right?
yes.
So, how can you get that if you are not even willing to fully accept yourself?
Interesting.
There you go. That was also a huge driving force behind me saying, yeah, you know what? Screw this ideology. Screw you guys. Peace out. Now it's time for me to start a new journey that is a lot more uplifting. But then
Yeah,
that journey and turn it into a testimony so it can serve as a source of inspirations to others to likewise pursue inner peace and equanimity so that they could finally have the joy that they're just chasing after, though. Because let's just keep it real here. A lot of folks on here have some self-loathing issues, like that girl Ona, if we remember. I'm not putting her down. God bless her.
oh well,
Hope she's
yeah.
doing great. But we saw how open she was about who she was and who she stood for and everything. Because she even used to follow me.
I mean, like, yeah. This one thing that I'm saying. All right, because everybody, like, when we have a breaking point, there's like, I don't want to do this no more. Was it like a tragedy? Was it like something that you read? Was it somebody that gave you the Bible? Was it something that, what was like the catalyst? Because everybody has a catalyst. Because certain people want peace. So
Yes.
what was the point that you felt like, hold up, I'm not living peaceful right here. Like, how did it, like, what ate you up to the point that, like, nah, like, I need to find
The,
peace?
the hunger for peace and my faith were all the catalysts for bringing me to where I am today. Because you
Yes,
will also look at it like this. If you were really going to be like this man of God, right, that you so profess to be, then wouldn't you really want to start producing some fresh fruits?
yes,
Obviously, you're not going to get those fresh fruits through self-hatred. You're
right,
definitely not going to be getting those fresh fruits if you're saying racial slurs. You're definitely not going to be getting that if you slander or if you defame characters or you lie a lot or you do all this foolish stuff, right?
right.
So if you could show that you are in that great process of consecrating yourself, then hey, you are exactly where you should be at. All that stuff was very much the catalyst for bringing me down a much better direction.
So, all right, another question I'm going to ask because I'm still new within. I just consider myself a visitor because how you and I met is actually epic.
Yeah,
It's like
and I
it's
was
like
just transitioning out of the lifestyle when I first met you on Telegram. Yeah.
Yes, because it was like I'm on Telegram and I was on, the debate show. I'm just saying I'm that's not the real name of it, but I'm just saying the debate show.
Yeah.
So I see a whole bunch of people who, that they profess to be what there is. I say what I say, but I'm not really very invested in it. I have some few debates, but I'm not gonna go and actually insult people because I didn't really take it seriously. I just thought it was funny.
Hmm.
And then one day, when I was just actually on Radical and I'm just talking, you said, like, "Hey, you're the guy for Telegram." I was
I do
like,
remember
"What?"
that. Yeah.
I was like, "Hold up. I know that I have a distinctive voice, but geez."
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, and then I could actually say, even though I haven't physically met you, I could actually say that we actually have a good rapport with each other.
Agreed.
So my thing is this, and like I said, I consider myself a visitor. How long has you know the Golden Sphere, the MGM? I mean, how did in your own recollection, how did this movement come about?
Okay, so I was only introduced to it in June of 2022.
All
But
right,
I am also hearing that um, LSP is one of the founders of the Golden Sphere. So she for sure gets credit for that. And then I
all
was
right,
also hearing that there was some other woman from 2016 who also helped bring it out into existence, but she is obviously no longer around. But I forgot her name though. But for sure, LSP is like the co-founder and or the co-pioneer of the Golden Sphere,
all right.
originating
So,
in pretty much the late 20 teens.
all right.
Hmm.
So, okay, because I was still learning about it because I didn't know what MGM was. Because I know me being of Dominican origin, I know that I'm mixed. I just haven't taken the 23 and me yet. So I was actually at another content creator. I was like, okay, I'm just a guest. I'm just trying to see what it was.
Hmm.
The next thing I was being called filth or something like that, just because of who I hung around with.
Hmm.
And then after a while, they was like, "Oh, you're a liar," and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, so let's. This is my thing that I have to say.
Hmm.
How a person is going to be a liar when the fact is, I was just only introduced to what an MGM or mulatto, all those categories. I was just only introduced to that when I went to Radical's page because I like to listen to some Radical Latino. Big shout out to him though.
Hmm.
So the next thing you know, I'm being called an infiltrator, whatever. I'm like, by a certain collective of, I'm just gonna say this, of unwise people. So my thing is that if you're gonna do all that, why?
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna actually make a person understand about your movement, the last thing a person needs to be called is a liar and or slander. When
Yeah.
a person don't even know what the heck you're just slandering them about.
I have to be honest, like, I don't even feel that I have anything to even prove either.
Right.
Because, for one, nobody on here knows me in real life or the stuff people ask me, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who always gets that frequently asked question, which is like, are you mixed or what are you? And then I've already
Well,
been open about the Uber experience on here when I was driving for Uber all over Las Vegas and all over the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Along with that is going to come along with a lot of characters for driving for Lyft and Uber. I drove a lot
Uh,
of people around too, so it's going to open a lot of doors to curious characters. So
right.
I don't have to prove anything because a lot of the times you could tell what we are just by getting a glimpse of a person. And then plus, you guys even want to see my results, all you guys had to do is go to my community tabs, scroll down, scroll
Yep.
all the way down, and look at it from there. But in a recent post, I said, oh, Ancestry basically says that I descend from the Louisiana Creoles on both sides of my family.
Wow.
It's down there on
That's
the
it.
community tab. So I'm like, I don't even have to do this. But clearly, some people like visuals. So there's your visual.
I mean, I'm think it's like between it's like right now I'm like, all right, it's between 23andMe and Ancestry because me and my sister we was actually talking about it. She was like, yeah, we'll do it because I want to actually see what we are. I was like, yeah, I actually want to also.
I would say this, to be honest, Don, like I said, no pressure on you and your girl, but I would say go right ahead and do it and, make people shut up. Because I've actually known of some people who did their exams, and if they really were of Caribbean origin, the exams would connect you to those Caribbean origins. So with you and your wife, take it, show it, and get the closure that you two deserve. It's fine. I did it. And hey, it was already closure in itself. Actually, even more than enough closure because I already knew even before I took it back in 2016. But, brother, just take it whenever,
I
but no
I,
pressure.
I want to because it's like it's one lingering thing that I've had about my ancestry. I tell
Mhm.
you, it's like I met a far cousin of mine, and we were talking about my family surname, etc. So when me and her we had this deep talk, and and it was just and she was in the Navy and everything. It was just to the point that she was like the female version of me.
Mhm.
It's like we understood each other. Like she she had her struggles and I had mine.
Right.
But she went up and she told me something that I didn't know, but I felt all in my life. And I even tried to communicate to my mom, but I never heard it. But she didn't want to hear it. I don't know. And maybe this is and I know this is God and I know this is God speaking. He speaks to you in different ways.
Yes.
So so it was like when I was in the hospital for whatever, right?
Right.
And even though I went up and I prayed to God, and I seen and it was like a chapel, and then there was a Jewish chapel. For some reason, I looked at the Jewish chapel in amazement. I didn't know why, and it was like, and and it's like you have to be there to actually feel it. But then it's like when I was a kid, and I used to watch the and they used to have cartoons that it talked about the Bible and everything. That's what I used to watch like every day when I was a kid down south.
Nice.
I guess when it was the TBS and everything. I watched my regular cartoons too, but then I watched that.
Uh-huh.
So after a while, whenever you know, I came across people who were of that faith because you can't really say something with words right here because they'll try to take it offensive. It's I felt I felt like I don't know. It's like like even like an immediate respect and stuff. So just to get back to the story, when my cousin said that you're of those people, I was like, wow. So I went up and I did some research on my surname. So it turns out that in the north of Spain during that time before the Inquisition, a lot of people who were of that faith,
Catholic.
actually, or this is before Catholic, before the Catholic took over. I'm talking the about Hebrews. I'm not is well, you know what I mean, but
Okay. Oh, I see. What?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we're Hebrews. They actually lived in that time. They actually had that surname, which is now my current surname. So my cousin actually went. I remember it was like around 2016 or something. So this is my first cousin. So when he took the test and everything, it did say that he was 5% Hebrew. Now, like I said, I'm not using the actual word. I'm just saying Hebrew in
Fair enough.
reference to that word. Yeah.
Fair enough. I
So
know what you mean. I mean, you do actually have a number of people today who actually specifically descend from tribes of Ephraim, Reuben, or Jacob, Isaac, Judah. Yeah,
yeah.
Benjamin
So
too.
exactly. So with that said, it was it's like it's been a curiosity ever since I used to talk to this cousin. I do not know where she's at right now. I pray that she is well. But it was just a point that I just started actually. It's been a burning question for like a while now. So I think so. Hopefully by the end of this year, I will take that test, and I could and maybe the results might amaze me, or it might confirm what my father and what my mom always used to say to me.
I would
So,
just say, bro, like ancestry.com specifically has been having all of these deals like 39.99. I would just say, bro, like don't even delay.
all right,
I mean, yeah, dude, you can do whatever you want, but um I would just say do it now and then get the closure within 2.5 weeks and then
all
share
right,
it. And then that in itself will shut a lot of people up because
yeah,
my tree was able to specifically, or better yet, my genetic results specifically trace me to, hey, all these communities of the South, specifically the Louisiana Creoles, because that's where they saw, or better yet, that's where the tests were able to pick up on the migration patterns too that are within my bloodline. And then
all
also,
right,
like, I got the 18% too of the Irish Scot too. That makes sense though, because you're definitely of Scottish origin though. Then you actually had family living in Appalachia too. So the
mm,
so the test probably picked up on the migration patterns throughout Appalachia. But yeah, a lot of people in Appalachia are of Scottish descent. That's a fact. People can look it up. So that my test picked up on that too. So when it comes to your family, especially your father, they may be able to trace it to the probably the Afro Dominican populations of the DR because of the
right,
migration patterns. So, bro, you and your girl, just take it. Don't delay because then saying oh maybe the end of the year, then it's going to be next year, and then the next year, and then next thing you know it, you pretty much basically keep procrastinating. I'm not calling you a procrastinator though, but
yeah, but you know, the spirit of procrastination does exist. Yes,
yeah. So then, like, honestly, don't miss out on these deals. But again, you and your girl could do whatever, but just take it. Even if I actually have to
yeah.
give it to you as a gift, I would because I have a gift
Hey,
of giving too. Because I actually bought an ancestry kit for somebody as a gift. Even though me and him are not friends anymore, I don't consider that a loss because I'm still happy that he got the closure he wanted when I got him a 23andMe kit.
All right, hey,
About it
I
though,
I I, I welcome all that.
we say again,
I welcome all that. So
yeah, you
even if
and your
you
goal. Just,
thank you.
so I'm like, what's the delay, brother? Come on, this will make
Yeah,
people shut up. To be quite honest.
I
And
know
then you
because
can go back to Fighter. You can go back and say, Fighter, here, let me
mm,
screen record everything just so that you know I'm not trying to falsify anything. Look at all this stuff. This is from a reputable company. Clearly, the test picked up on migration patterns to the Caribbean, specifically the DR. So you can't say I'm some fake Dominican when this is what DNA evidence is linking me to.
exactly, and it's like to me, I'm not even like respect to fighter and everything like that, but it's even to the point that I'm like I already know what I am or whatsoever. So to me, people could go and it's like and one thing I've actually said, I went up and I put my proof right there, and even if I have the DNA proof or whatsoever, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna still have people who actually deny science or what have you. You know why? Because it's me. So
Okay, well,
therefore,
it's going to
so
say a
therefore,
lot
I
more about them than you. But yeah, go on.
exactly. So therefore, it's like it's to the point that I just want to see. I have that curiosity, and then I guess when I get my test results, I might just publish it next year because you know I don't know about the percentages and all and this that and the third. So therefore, I'm
I get it though.
and
Like I would say, it's not like it's 100% accurate or that it's like 100% perfect because it's not. But it still does like a decent job in terms of really looking into more of the recent migration patterns within your genetic bloodline. So,
right,
like in the recent patterns, that's when they were able to pick up on the Creole or the early Virginia African American slaves or the Ulster Scots of Appalachia,
yeah,
Irish
yeah,
Scots or Scottish just in general.
hmm
And then also, I got even a little bit of the Portuguese too. I'm not surprised by that because there were even migration patterns from the Iberian Peninsula down to, the Louisiana area, especially when there was a time when the Spanish king, King Carlos, I think King Carlos III was the one who eventually took over, um, I think, the western part of the Louisiana
yes,
territory
yes,
before, yep, before
and our
Spain
friend,
gave it back to it. But no, go on.
and that's what a lot of people, I guess, Zacharias had flack for, but he actually showed me documents of his great grandfather and the picture of his great grandfather when he was actually talking about it. So it's like I guess when he was growing up, me and him, we actually had conversations. Like he didn't know that he had that ancestry until he actually looked at actually documents of who his grandparents were.
I
So
see.
I was, yeah. So certain people go, "Oh, you don't know this," but there's a lot. But like he might have not taken the DNA test or whatever. But one thing I could actually say about Zacharias, he did some research on who he is. So you know,
Cool.
yeah. So
Same here, though. But what I was about to get ready to say is that from 1662 up until 1803, 1804, that was when Spain was in charge of the Louisiana territory until Napoleon Bonaparte took it and eventually sold it to the US.
yeah,
And that's it, though. So, yeah, I'm not really surprised by there being some Iberian blood in the genetic pool.
hmm
because Portugal is still a part of the Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah.
So there you
Me,
go.
me and my Portuguese homie at my job, we were actually talking about it. I was like, hold up. Is it Spain and Portugal like the same people? He's like, yeah. And me and him, we were talking about a little bit about history. So when me and him, we actually had this conversation, he actually instructed me to go. He was actually telling my wife, well, me and my wife, we could actually go to a restaurant which is called Don Pepe's.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Don Pepe's right in Philadelphia. Yo, bro, I got to tell you, man, they know how to cook a good steak, man.
I'm pretty
I,
sure.
I was like, yeah. And then I went with my wife and my in-laws. They was like, yo, the food is great. I'm like, I want to go there again. Because usually we go to a Brazilian spot called Picanha,
Mm-hmm.
and the steaks is really decent. I never ate at Fogo de Chao or any of the other Brazilian spots near Philadelphia, but I would like to try them. Like my next incursion when it comes to food is to go to the Mama Juana restaurant. I had one of my coworkers. He went there. And he said that the food is great. He's like expensive though, but it's great. I was like, yeah, I want to try it out myself. But another question I'm gonna ask:
Ask away.
how did you learn Spanish?
Uh, from starting by the seventh grade and even up until right now, I've always loved me some good old reggaeton music and bachata. And by the ninth grade, man, dude, my favorite artists were Rakimi Kenway, Don Omar, Daddy Yankee, and just about the whole Pina Records crew, if we remember Pina Records.
Yeah,
Remember Pina Records.
was it? Are you sure it's Pina or Pina Records? Because the guy who actually is the boss of it is actually married to that songstress Nati Natasha. But the thing is, though, I think he's actually taking a long vacation, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Actually, yeah, I'm not even say yeah, it's Pina Records.
yeah.
Pina Records, yes.
Hmm.
That's what I meant. Sorry, I thought it was Pina, but Pina Records. But yes,
Yeah.
I was very much an admirer of the Pina Records crew, like at least between like 2005 to 2008.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I also took a lot of Spanish too in high school. I've also
Hmm.
traveled to Mexico like a few times in my lifetime as well. And then just from there, that was it though. But even at the time though, I even had like a Mexican girlfriend too in the eighth grade.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And then
Yeah. I
every time
mean.
my mom answered the phone, she would be like, bueno, bueno. So there you go. I did actually have a lot of Hispanic friends too growing up, by the way. So in elementary school, I was friends with two Mexican twins by the name of Brian and Brandon too. I
Yeah.
also had a good friend named Eric Guzman as well. And then
Right.
also Jasmine, the the girly girl, the lover from Sacramento, California. And
Right.
also a lot of like actually also had a friend at the time from El Salvador, Brian.
All right.
Caesar, who was from Mexico, then one other guy who was from Guatemala. So, hey, there are Hispanic friends, specifically
Yes.
Mexican and Central American friends in my background.
All right.
Just around that, combining with loving the Pina Records crew, and then me already finding Spanish to be an easy language in itself,
All right.
already is going to play a role in Spanish speaking ability.
Right.
Oh, and then plus,
So
so one last thing I was going to say, and then plus, I also graduated from the Academy of Art University too, and I got my bachelor's degree too in acting though. So if I really wanted to play like a Cuban or Dominican characters, I could if I wanted to, because me and some other
nice.
people at the time had what you call ethnic versatility. Whereas in real life, you aren't exactly that person, but you could pass for it.
Right.
So it's
So
much like how Lou Diamond Phillips played Richie Valens, even though Lou Diamond Phillips is Filipino, but he was known for playing Native American and Hispanic characters. If you think about it.
yeah, and it was funny because I actually thought that he was. Well, I know he was something. I just didn't know he was Filipino until I actually read his biography.
Yep,
And,
Filipino though, and he was the Navajo Indian in Young Guns.
right.
And then in Stand and Deliver, he's that Cholo kid. Remember?
Yes.
even though we know what he is in real life.
No. But talking about that, you know that there was this Italian guy, right? That he has like the tattoos in his body. So he
Mm-hmm.
has all these tattoos in his body, right? And and I seen a video with Mob Deep and Danny Trejo, right? It looked like that they took something from a club, and then you see this bald tattoo guy. Now, from what you see, that this tattoo that with the guy that he has all the tattoos and stuff, he will look like your stereotypical Hispanic gang member.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you actually read what it is, it's like, hold up, he's Italian. But the thing is, though, I guess since he has the tattoos in his body or whatsoever, a lot of casting directors they actually cast him as as a gang member or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But the fact is, he's just a guy that like art, that like tattoos around his body, and it just looked like a certain way to, I guess, the certain demographic.
Mm-hmm.
If you could, yeah,
Well, Al Pacino's Italian, but look at who he played in 1983.
yep,
There you go. Tony
hmm
Montana.
yeah. But then again, which a lot of people don't understand is that when you look at Spain and Italy, like the histories between those countries or entities at that time were actually intertwined, to tell you the truth. Because think about it, Spain and Italy were are actually highly Catholic countries.
Yes. And then during that time, though, even though if let's just say there was some maybe a language barrier going on between the two, they could communicate in traditional Latin. So they ever wanted to say a rosary prayer together, they could both speak in Latin and even communicate from there. And even same thing with France too, or Poland.
Yeah.
Same thing.
hmm
If all those groups encountered one another and we had a language barrier issue going on, they can use Latin to communicate or
Yes.
say the Latin benediction together.
hmm
There you go.
Yep. And it's like you have to look look in respect to history because there's a lot of history that when it comes to those countries during the time that the Vatican actually had dominion within all most of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna go with the Merovingian and all those other histories, but it's very interesting on how
Oh, sure.
Merovingians they went up and they actually made their family or families under a fallacy that certain people don't even know what the fallacy was back in the day. If you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about. So it's me and my friends who were just talking. It's like, yo, you know those old families in Europe? I was like, yeah. You know that they're here? I'm like, I guess pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the way that I've seen historical depictions and what I've read in books, it seems that certain people they used, they bartered, and then on top of it, if they were to even quote unquote wage war with each other, they had to get the Vatican's permission to do that. I was
Right.
like, wow. And then even with the with the new exploration world, you had Portugal and you had Spain at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remind you,
Spanish.
both being backrolled at the time by the Vatican, because that at that time that was the predominant faith of Portugal and Spain.
The entire Roman Empire too.
Yes,
Yes, because even the Romans making their way up into England to where that's where you will find the Salisbury Cathedral, which was established by the Catholic Romans at the time.
yes,
But as we already know, like the English still wanted their own branch of the church, so that's where they formed the Church of England, aka the Anglican Church. But the Anglican Church still adopted many elements from the traditional Catholic Church.
yeah. I know. I was actually baptized Anglican as a
Nice.
kid.
It's more like a mix between
Yeah,
Catholic and Protestant.
yeah, and it was like my mom was like, it's kind of like she used to tell people, "Hey, it's kind of like Catholic, but it's not."
Hmm.
And I saw similarities also. But the thing is, though, after a while, I actually turned away from that church because I saw something that they're actually trying to make sure that it was okay, and I knew that I read in the Bible that it's not okay. So why would I go and go to a church that's openly promoting this?
Can I have a hint as to what it is?
I'll tell you in the back chat because it might be offensive to some viewers, and since we live in the sensitive culture and everything like that, but it's just it was something that my heart at the time that I was like that I actually deemed offensive. I was like, I'm not going to this church anymore, and I actually had to break it down to my mother, and she actually respected it.
It's understandable. Yeah, I get it. But yeah,
Yeah,
other than that, though, there's actually been some good that came from the Church of England. But yeah, it's more like it's Catholic, but not at the same time. Because also, an Anglican priest, by the way, can marry and have kids. The Catholic priest has already taken that vow of celibacy forever.
yeah. From what I heard, the only reason, like historically, why Catholic priests had that was because of a land disputes or whatsoever. Meaning that they used to get married, but then after land disputes and everything, that's where they actually put the vow of celibacy. I
Hmm.
was like, land disputes. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, I mean,
But
like
then
I have
again,
my own personal issues when it comes to the Catholic Church. I am going to be honest there. It's not really something I 100% believe in, even though I actually was baptized Catholic at the St. Columbus Catholic Church in Oakland, California. But, me studying the Bible a lot, learning more, experiencing a lot more. Yeah, there's some issues with I actually have with both the Catholic and the Protestant church combined.
yeah,
I could for sure say a lot though, but mm, I'll just leave it there unless folks really want to hear it.
got you.
Hmm. But for sure,
So
I'll tell you this though: a lot of the Creoles at the time were specifically Catholic. And also, if you go to Nacogdoches, Louisiana, you can look up the St. Augustine Church, which is what the Cane River Creoles built entirely on their own. which is beautiful. I
Nice.
would actually love to go down there. Maybe I'll go to a service, even though specifically Catholicism is not really something where my heart is. And honestly, it's not probably not going to be there just based on everything I've learned. But I can still support the fact that my people started off being people of faith.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to just say that, even though, a couple of my family members already in Baton Rouge are saying, well, Jordan, what's wrong with the Catholic faith? I don't want to go there with my family because I still love them very much. But let's just say it's to each their own.
Yeah.
I definitely have some issues here, and I do see some biblical contradictions. So
So
that's just all I'm going to say.
yeah. All right. So this is one thing that I'm gonna ask, and I know they use around those circles.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that most people who have like that white supremacist ideology or whatsoever, what is it? Because I've seen this like on the internet and everything like that. What is it with them and fat shaming women? What is that all about? I'm saying from your own views,
Oh
if
man,
I
that's
might
just
add.
Oh man, that's just to be petty and just to really, really demean somebody. That's all, man. It's just it's more of their way of really trying to show that he's top dog and that he's the one who gets to call the shots. So it's kind of more so of just like a intimidation tactic is what happens when the whole fat shaming or just throwing petty insults starts to happen. Kind of the same stuff that you see on here, though. It's just more of like just to be petty, to be spiteful, and just to employ an intimidation tactic. Like
I mean,
no
I mean
different
to me is
threatening you or making threats of falsifying something on you, though. It's just more the person's way of trying to control the situation or maybe even control the other person. But that's what it's all about.
yep. And it's like to me, I'm like to me when I see certain people and they talk down on women who actually have weight problems and everything. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so let's put it like this. And and me personally, just no offense to anybody, but you have certain people who are fat shaming them and everything, but yet their teeth will be looking like their tongues in prison and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might be the one that look like they came out of a horror flick or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, you're not actually presentable, but yet you're the one that's actually making fun of a woman just because she has weight. But at the same time, while you have your views about that woman is actually being greeted and saluted by actual men that actually thinks that she's a beautiful specimen.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is this: when I see certain people who are actually in our 30s or 40s using terms like fatty and all that other stuff, I'm like, hold up, you're like in your 30s and 40s. Don't you have like any other words than words that actually make you sound like a 5-year old kid when you're actually going to disrespect somebody?
Yeah, but then you also ask why do they do that? Well, it's also because of the maturity level, which is pretty poor.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a lot of that on these YouTube streets.
Yeah. So this is the conclusion that we can just arrive to that when it comes to that. It's just, hey, it's just a very questionable maturity level. Two, just to employ and project out a intimidation tactic. And three, just to be a petty jerk too. So
Right.
they do it.
So, all right. this is the question I'm gonna ask, and this might be pivotal or what have you.
Hmm.
Now, from 2022 till now,
Hmm.
what is your view on how this country is going?
It is going to be a lot worse before it even gets better,
And why do you say that?
because this is also the times where that one verse from First Timothy is really starting to come to light. So have you ever heard of that verse from First Timothy chapter 3 to verse 1 to verse 5?
I'm going to read it tonight.
I can even read it right now too if you'd like. But
Go ahead.
it's clearly a pivotal biblical point that reflects what we see unfolding today.
All right.
So, First Timothy 3:1-5. So it says, "But mark this, there be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people." We see that happening in full force at this very moment, even within the social and political climate that we see unfolding. And then plus, like the book of Ephesians says, well, hey, we're also wrestling against all these evil powers and principalities, right? So clearly Satan is clearly at work and using others as a vessel to, to take down God's will for this planet. So and then we see clearly, like the recent assassination attempt of Trump, we can see how it brought out a lot of sociopathic characters too, who are clearly getting a lot of satisfaction out of what happened, which was honestly pretty terrible, regardless of where people are on the political spectrum, by the way. And then you even have people on Twitter. Look at this. People on Twitter telling me that I ought to self-delete, you know, all
Yeah,
because they don't like me, or better yet, people who get super duper triggered over the word Jesus, like I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, as we saw in that police video, or
yeah, that was sad.
yes, there you go, or better yet, somebody spending the whole month of the holiday season talking on and on about me because I said the trigger word forgiveness from a biblical standpoint. There you go.
Right.
And can
Yep.
you see how all this stuff corroborates from that verse or corroborates with that verse from Second Timothy 3:15?
Yes. Yes.
So that's the answer to your question, brother. It's
All
going to
right.
get worse before it gets better, but it doesn't mean that we all have to sink into a doom and gloom mindset. Instead, just put on that armor of God, be in his word, be obedient, love him, accept him, and hey, you'll get through it. Because if the Lord's going to bring you to it, he'll get you through it.
Yes. Another question that I'm gonna ask:
All right.
What made you want to move to Las Vegas?
Back in 2018, me and my ex fiance were together. So we started dating towards the end of 2017, and we were long distance for quite some time because I didn't
All right.
officially move to Southern Nevada until May 14, 2018.
Okay.
Because she was just having a hard time dealing with the long distance, even though I was actually driving all the way from the Bay Area to Las Vegas to spend time with her most of the time.
All right.
A couple times where she did come to the Bay Area, then the majority of the times I was actually putting forth the effort into coming to see her.
All right.
Well, that's ultimately how I got my first steps into Southern Nevada. But then, unfortunately, it was a very toxic relationship. I am also repentant too about everything that went down. Not a relationship that I am proud of because of how toxic it was between the both of us too.
All right.
And so, but nevertheless, I still have no regrets because all of that stuff still played some really important key roles in terms of bringing me to where I am today.
Amen for that.
So, oh, absolutely. I have no regrets at all, though. I'm actually am glad that I experienced what I experienced, though, because, hey, you're going to actually have to go through some storms, though, in order to get it. King David had to go through some wild storms in order for him to be the man to go after God's own heart and become one of the greatest kings of Israel during that time.
Yes.
So, who's to say that we can't go through a crazy hailstorm like King David was?
Right.
There you go. Now, would I want this to happen again? No, 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 no. But there still is some good value and wisdom to extract from that.
All right. So, what are your thoughts on people who are missionaries?
Great. Depending on what the kind of missionary work is, though, because, I mean, after all, Jesus said to go out and make disciples of all nations. So
Yes.
you just got to make sure that you're hearing from God and not hearing from yourself. Like, did God specifically put you on that mission, much like how he put Paul on a mission to minister to the Jews in Jerusalem, along with to even other people in Rome or Macedonia? If it's specifically a God-filled calling, then yes. But if you're kind of doing it yourself, then no. Never lean on your own understanding. The music's blasting, you said? Yeah, okay, yeah, man, no worries.
All right. Yeah. So it looks like that music that it was over. So this is my thing, and I don't know. I don't know, but I just know that I just keep hope and faith because the political spectrum is something that I try to understand, but then I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna leave it as it is. Now, with all other sayings, if you had to do it again, what would be the place that you would go to?
If I had to do what again? You
I really have to go in and invest in some soundproof panels. But what I'm trying to say is this: if you had to do it again, which will be the other place in the United States or outside the United States that you would like to live at?
Oklahoma.
Hmm. Why Oklahoma?
Oklahoma has all 4 seasons out of the year, just my type. And then if you I don't know whether you've been following the news, but it looks like Oklahoma is trying to get the Bible back into schools. That's good. Louisiana
Very
already
good.
did that. And so it would for sure, be like the place that more closely lines up with my values. Although
Yeah.
definitely not perfect for sure. I am going to say that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Oklahoma does not have any problems because they for sure do. But that would be probably the place I'd migrate to,
All right.
apart from maybe some tornadoes that, but I'll be fine.
I think it's very concrete that might deserve that. I
Hmm.
mean, all the houses that I've seen when there's a tornado, it look like there's more wooden structure. I haven't really seen a tornado that might hit a brick or cement laden house. I don't know. I think that certain people, if they're gonna actually make their houses whatsoever, I think they need to make at least put some concrete or metal in the foundation, so therefore it could be withstanding more when the tornadoes come out. But then when this category five, I don't know. I think it's gonna be good.
I think you meant more like EF5 though, because the categories that refers more to the hurricanes though. But no, in tornadoes we have the EF0, EF1, EF2, EF3, EF4, EF5.
Yeah, five. All right. Yeah.
EF5. No, I love, dude. I have a passion for tornadoes. I actually hope that I can actually catch one someday in real life. Only in the country though, in the countryside,
Right.
in cities.
Right.
I will never root for a tornado that's happening in towns. It's terrible. But on the countryside, away from towns and homes and barns, oh yeah, man, I'm going to root for them like hell.
Yeah. It was like a mini tornado when when I went to visit my friend's grave, and I had to hide in another crypt because it was just wind blowing and everything like that. I said it was a mini tornado. It was not that big. But then after a while, my phone got messed up, so I was like, "Tag."
So was it more like a EF0 though?
I'll say an EF1 to be honest.
EF1 though, because EF1 it does more like minor damage though, and then there's also the land spout tornadoes too. And the land spout tornadoes, they're not really caused by a supercell.
All right.
So you say it was probably EF1?
Yeah, because it was just over in minutes.
Got it.
But,
Well,
yeah.
how would you like to come out and catch a tornado with me out in maybe Kansas or Oklahoma? Texas, they get a
Yeah.
lot of.
I think the wife is not going to approve with that because
She can come with us then.
nah, I guess nah, because the reason why I say that because I guess she saw Twister, so even though it's a good movie, she was like, man,
The
they got
movie
that. That's yeah, they was like, they
movie
got that.
Twister.
I'm not
You
doing
talk
that. I was like,
the movie Twister
yeah,
with Bill Paxton from the 1996 movie. I saw it
yep,
too. Bill
yeah. That's
Paxton.
well, yeah. It was the 1996 movie that we actually saw, and my lady was like, man, they got that. I will not even attempt that. I was like, I hear you.
I hear you. So she won't let you, huh?
It's not even that. It's just that I don't know.
She
I
would just
would.
worry for you so much so and probably blow up her phones, wondering, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" It's all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then on top of it, it's like chasing tornadoes, even though it's great, they do have some dangers right there. It's like, hey, I want to get more of the clip. And then, and then on top of it, we are in the tornado. So I was like, I seen that happen also. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's see what else. All right. What are, since you're California, what are, like, how should I say, the stark differences from a person from LA, a person from the Bay Area, and a person from Northern California that you have seen?
Some people are going to be more radical and more moderate in terms of their politics.
All
People in the
right.
Bay Area, or some, or at least where I was growing up in, like Berkeley, you're going to have some people who are pretty much going to be far left. LA, it's a big place, big county, millions of people. It's going to have a lot more of a diversity in thought. Like if you go out to Pawndale, Lancaster, which is still in LA County, though, but a lot of people there are going to be more conservative and libertarian minded.
All right.
maybe if you go to more like Hollywood, then yeah, you're going to have people who are pretty left leaning though. Or if you go to like Burbank, Pasadena, some people are just going to be more moderate though. You see, this just SoCal, there's going to be a little bit more people who are probably just going to be more moderate leaning or moderate liberal, whereas Bay Area, you'll just encounter a lot of people who are just ultra liberal,
All right, yeah,
people who are pretty different though. And then also in the Bay Area, a lot of people like to say hella, like, oh my God, he's hella smart. But hella is not something that you commonly hear in SoCal.
yeah.
So there's
So,
a noticeable difference between NorCal and SoCal. And then like when you really start to go up there towards like Humboldt County, and I'm talking like Arcata, Eureka, and honestly getting close to like the Oregon state line, people there are pretty conservative minded. And then even in Central Cal, like Fresno, a lot of people are going to be conservative minded. Like Bakersfield's still pretty conservative, and same with Merced.
all
After
right,
all, California used to be a red state anyway.
yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, I always thought it was a red state because Hollywood, etc.
in a lot of ways, it still sort of is to an extent, because again, you have Bakersfield, you have San Bernardino County, then you have Humboldt County and Stanislaus County. You go over there, you're going to be seeing a lot of Trump van signs. Or even
Yeah,
in Riverside County too. Riverside
yeah.
County, Humboldt County, Bakersfield, Palmdale, Lancaster area, all like the more rural parts of California and the desert um, parts of California, people are going to vote red.
All right. So
Even
that takes me to,
Sacramento
so,
too.
so that takes me to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people? I mean, in Cal, I guess the few that does. Why do people tend to vote red? Is it because of their core values, or is it because of something else sinister?
A lot of people there are just tired of wokeness too, and you even have people who may be more like liberal leaning though, but they don't really like extremism, so they just feel that voting red may offer a little bit more balance to the equation. And even some people, let's just say, are just fed up with Gavin Newsom too.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the name. I just don't know too much of his politics.
You broke up, by the way.
Yeah, I was like, I've heard of that man, but I don't know too much of his politics.
So he was once the San Francisco neighbor. He was like very much all for pro marriage equality, though, but he eventually made it to governorship. And yeah, he's just kind of more of like a very left leaning like governor too, though. But let's just say during the COVID shutdowns in California, a lot of people were not really happy with Newsom because he wasn't following his own rules.
Uh, that makes sense.
Telling people to wear a mask, whereas he was out and about not doing that and then just enjoying himself maskless at the time. So a lot of people saw that.
I see. So, if anybody were to take any thing from this message, I'm saying anybody who's young, anybody who's older from your lifetime, what would the message be? So therefore, I guess they could be more productive citizens or what have you.
Analyze your heart, though, and find out whether you still have stuff in there that shouldn't be in there, or whether you have other problematic aspects to your personality that may be delaying your breakthroughs. Because we all want to have a great divine breakthrough in our lifetimes, right? And blessings. Well, you could just be delaying all that stuff though by keeping all this stuff in your heart that ought to not be there.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Like, hey, like, do you still better yet have a lot of malice in your heart towards others? Do you like to slander? Do you like to defame? Do you just want to like sleep around with a bunch of people too? Do you want to just pursue pleasure without a purpose? Just all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
all of that stuff that's just like not really great in your heart though, and that could actually be impeding you from reaching your greatest potential. Obviously, I'm not saying that we have to be picture perfect because we're not though. I'm not saying I'm better or worse, but people are doing that. There's clearly not really some great things in the heart that's going on. Or saying that you want somebody to self-delete on Twitter, okay. Or saying that you're glad that somebody has passed away, yikes. Or somebody else who is always on Grinder and doing his thing. I know somebody like that already, even though I cut ties with him. I'm like, okay, time to re-examine or cross-examine the heart. So I'd say this a valuable thing is analyze your heart, cross-examine it, and start maybe casting some things out of it that don't really belong in it, though, because who wants to have a delayed breakthrough? Hello? Okay, Don, I can't really hear you, but I'll wait until you get whatever taken care of. Hello?
Mm,
Okay, folks. I'm probably going to log off now because I think
yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
I thought you fell asleep.
nah, it's that I don't know. I had to. Well, it's like I don't know sound or whatsoever. So I was like, okay,
I heard some. I thought I heard some snoring in the background. I'm like, somebody fell asleep because that does happen where people literally fall asleep on the panels.
so yeah, I had that once, and then somebody pointed it out to me. I was like, "Dag, I actually fell asleep on the live streams."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I gotta say, Jojo, is that you know you're a good dude and everything. So I'm rooting for you, bro.
Rooting for you and your
So
lady as well.
thank
Plus,
you.
I also very much respect you and her even more because you do know that what you and her have going on is what the Lord is truly going to put his hands on, by the way. You know that, right?
Yes,
You know what that is, right? Say it.
yes,
No, you already know it. You can even write it in the private chat too. I will do it too.
yep,
I'm gonna write it in the chat. I mean in the private chats.
yep.
So I'm writing it. Yeah, that's one of them. There we go.
Exactly.
Yep. But even
Oh,
when you are,
talking about everything. How's your dog doing?
how's my what?
How's your dog doing?
Zeus is doing well. Just needs to be on the proper pain meds still, and then he
All right.
should be fine though. But yeah, with some older dogs still, there might be some torn ACLs. So keep that managed, keep them going, keep their muscles going, and they will be fine.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Hopefully, your girl is doing great.
Yes, she is. We're just actually waiting for our in-laws right now. So then after that, I have to go to work tomorrow.
Hmm.
I could tell you. I was supposed to go to the gym, but then I actually had like a long day at work, so I was like, gotta go
Oh, I get
home.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
Hope
Yeah.
you like what I said in the private chat
Right.
because that's a fact. Oh,
Yep. I,
Jose asked the question. What
I
did we Jose?
mean, okay. Yes, there is somebody that I'm planning to interview, so that might be in the works. I'm just I'm trying to grasp on who I'm going to interview because it's somebody that I know, somebody that a member of my family knows. So I'm going to try to actually get maybe some of the proper equipment to interview this person. So I'm going to try to actually negotiate that behind the scenes. I'm not going to go and say who the person is, but the person is a very important content creator knows knows that knows my family, and he's actually had a lot of content which is relating to history of the United States. Just all over history.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I had to do this because I'm like, yo, certain people they're actually putting out the wrong narrative, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to interview this man because at at the end, certain people were putting out the wrong narrative, and I've read it. I'm like, okay, this is absurd, or or what have you. They're like, okay, they actually put a wrong narrative about me and Don Jose as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go and sit back and be like, ah, like for a person to go and make a lot of fallacies, you make a lot of fallacies. The writing is not really correct, but yet you're trying to actually convey a fantastic lie. When the fact is, a person always talk over and over themselves to the point that it doesn't even sound credible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, Jojo, tonight was a good night because you know we got everything out in the open. People will not actually try to misconstrue your words or gaslight.
Yeah,
So
or basically say that the story is phony, though. I'm like, no.
exactly.
I have a lot more receipts than anyone ever could imagine, though. So, like, for some people who have already seen like a couple videos here and there online, I actually have a lot more than that. You guys have seen nothing.
Yep. And I have a lot more receipts too. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have receipts, people could go and make up the lies and everything. Okay, so therefore, if you're so confident to say what you're saying online, okay, so why don't you say it to my face? Oh yeah, I forgot. Y'all just faceless, right? Got you. So I'm just gonna keep it moving.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I don't really, we don't really have anything really to like prove to anybody, really, though. It's just, I've already proven the authenticity of the story, and then that's just the bottom line.
Exactly.
It's a testimony because people, if you're gonna be on get up on here and be a testimony, then you best keep things transparent. Otherwise,
Yes,
we cannot use you to be a testimony to others if you're not going to be transparent about what you did.
exactly.
I
And shout out to Senpai Pete that he actually comes on my Wednesday streams and everything because he's a chaplain also.
mm-hmm,
So whenever we talk about because me and him were actually talking about home self defense yesterday.
mm-hmm,
So we're gonna actually have a part two about that this like next Wednesday. So I
mm-hmm,
hope that we could actually we could actually chime in and stuff because we all talking about martial arts and stuff, but we're actually living in a country where people they don't respect anything.
mm-hmm,
So with that said, we're just talking about home self defense and how to actually prepare the family or in other ways just try to find like maybe hiding routes
mm-hmm,
if this intrusion begins
mm-hmm,
or just on how to actually keep a calm head
mm-hmm.
during during that. So it was actually something that we actually needed to hear. So there's going
Nice.
to be a part two about it. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Yep. Um, another
What's
thing
up?
I had to ask. Another thing I had to ask you.
Ask away.
So since being like Nevada and the West Coast, is all right. So do more people have all terrain vehicles as to just regular cars? Because I'm just saying because you have certain areas that they actually have hills, etc. So that's one curiosity I've always had.
About the cars. My vehicle,
Yeah,
clarify the question again, Don, if you don't mind?
Yeah, because I was saying like if y'all have like all-terrain vehicles, because there's certain areas that that are considered rocky, etc. That have some.
Yes, yes. So yeah, yes. So or at least cars with a lot more horsepower.
All
Yes,
right,
yes, because we have Sierra Nevada, though we do have a lot of mountainous communities in Arizona and Utah, and then for sure Nevada. Then
all
yeah,
right,
in San Francisco specifically, yeah, there are a lot of hills. So yeah, I can see that. See a little bit maybe a difference in people having certain cars as opposed to maybe people having cars in the Great Plain states
all
because
right,
there's obviously no need to have like cars with an insane amount of turbo power or horsepower because the plains are flat. Nebraska,
right.
Oklahoma, Kansas, South the Dakotas, they're all flat.
Oh, I did not know that. Now I actually learned something.
Oh yeah. I've been all over Nebraska and Kansas, which are definitely pivotal Great Plains states. They're flat.
Wow,
Very flat.
good to know. Well, it looks like that I'm gonna actually conclude this interview. It was great chatting with you, and I hope that we could actually do this again on another time. So
Absolutely, man.
you're always welcome here, Giorgio.
Yeah, the feelings are mutuals too. You're always welcome on my platform as well.
Yes,
I want to say something to you in private though, so you can put me in the backstage if you want, because I got some more realer stuff to tell you now. I'll be quick.
got you. Well, with that said, everybody, this has been the conclusion the to the open topics with Don Armando. Peace.